My name is Avery Collins, and I'm 41. The night my boyfriend told me, I'm getting a vasectomy reversal. Melanie wants kids now. I didn't raise my voice. I rinsed a wine glass we weren't using and dried it until the rim sang, one thin note, folding into the hush of our kitchen. In my head, I snapped a contractor's chalk line, blue dust floating for a heartbeat before settling into a straight edge. That clean line was where the rest of my life would stand. Jordan leaned in the doorway like a meteorologist who never gets wet, arms folded, chin tipped up, rehearsed for a storm he assumed he'd invited by being honest. It's better this way, he said, buttering each word so it slid. We still work as a team. Same friend group. We can adapt. I turned the glass in the towel. Adapt to what, exactly? To a modern family. He brightened, like he'd solved something. Melanie and we've been talking. She's ready. She regrets letting the years get away. The reversal is straightforward. I looked it up. Outpatient. We'd co-parent, of course. You and I would be the stable home. She's artistic and would bring a softness. A softness, I echoed, as if trying to hear the shape of the word. And the money? He flinched, but only a little. You make good money. The house is almost paid off. I thought we could shoulder it together. I mean, I can't carry it all right now. Not until the promotion comes through. I set the glass in the rack. It caught the light like a finish line. You want me to pay for your vasectomy reversal so you can have a baby with your ex-girlfriend? I said softly. And then help raise that baby while she visits, like a fun aunt. Don't make it sound weird, he said, defensive gentleness, the kind that counts on me doing the smoothing. People do families differently now. This could be beautiful. You're so practical. You'd be an incredible mom. And Melanie, she's the love of my... He stopped too late. The love of your what? He swallowed. My past, he said. But she matters. We matter too. All of us. Together. I'd lived with Jordan long enough to know what he really meant. My reliability was a platform he could jump from without looking down. He wanted the romance with Melanie and the receipts from me. It wasn't a triangle. It was a trapeze act where I provided the net. Follow your heart, Jordan, I said. Relief spilled across his face, an unguarded smile that mistook mercy for permission. Really? You'll consider it? No, I replied, steady. I'm saying do what you want. I just won't be part of it. The smile curdled. He looked past me, taking inventory of our flatware like logistics might talk my heart into compliance. You're being closed-minded. Or clear. He slept on the couch that night by choice, theatrically. I slept with the window cracked, the city's faraway hum flattening into something like ocean noise. When dawn pulled a gray seam through the blinds, the line in my head snapped again. Blue dust, straight future. I made coffee. He appeared with research printed from a clinic that promised discretion and an expedited timeline. It's $8,000, he said, setting the stack between the mugs. Private clinic. They can do it next Friday. And your plan to pay for it? You'll spot me. It's our future. He said it like a fact, like the sky. Our future, I repeated. You, me, and Melanie. Don't be cruel, he said quickly. You know I mean stability. You're good at that. I took the papers, flipped them face down. I won't be funding this. He started to speak. I put up a hand. And Jordan, no more conversations about this unless they're in writing. He blinked. What? Text me anything you want to propose. I'm busy today. He laughed, not unkindly. Avery, you're being procedural. Clarity helps. He left with a slam that rattled the frame. I waited for the tremor to settle, then made 2 calls. One to a lawyer, a colleague swore by, Howard Levin, precise as a scalpel, and one to my financial advisor, a woman whose favorite verb is segregate. Howard listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked for dates, employment details, and how the house was titled. In my name only, I said. Bought 5 years before I met him. He hummed, approving. We won't be discussing divorce, but there are cohabitation and joint funds angles. Any joint accounts where you're primary? 2 cards, one shared checking we opened last year for utilities. Close or freeze anything you can where you're primary today. Reroute your direct deposit to an individual account. Document every proposal he sends you. If he suggests you fund the reversal or raise a child he plans to conceive with Melanie, capture it verbatim. Do not argue, confirm. Ask helpful questions. Let him state his vision. Vision, I said. Exactly. I texted Jordan from the kitchen table, coffee going cool. Avery. Just to confirm, you're planning a vasectomy reversal so you can have biological children with Melanie while you and I remain together? His dots pulsed. Jordan, yes, that's the big picture. We'd be a team. She can't afford this alone, and you and I have a stable home. I typed slowly. Avery, and you expect me to pay for your surgery and help raise the child? Jordan, we would. It's not a me, you thing. It's our family. I looked up at the skylight and watched a cloud scud past like a smudge being erased. Avery, financially, what would Melanie contribute? The dots hesitated, then returned. Jordan, she's rebuilding. Money isn't everything. She'd be present and creative, different values. I sent the last message Howard had coached me to try. Avery, to be clear, I will not be part of you having a child with Melanie. If you proceed, that will be your choice and your responsibility. The dots arrived fast. Jordan, you said follow your heart. Avery, I did. That means you're free to do this. It also means I'm free to opt out. He didn't answer for a while. When he did, the hurt came weaponized. Jordan, this is financial control. You're punishing me for wanting a family. I set the phone down, hands steady. Control is an interesting mirror. Some people use it to check their hair, others to avoid their eyes. I spent my lunch hour at the bank. The manager recognized me and didn't ask questions. Utilities checking, legal hold requested pending review. Joint cards where I was primary, canceled. My payroll, redirected. Beneficiaries, updated. The clerk asked if I wanted new checks. I told her I wanted clean edges. She laughed, not knowing why that mattered. At home, I photographed the deed, the receipts for my grandmother's dining set, the serial number on the TV he would later pretend belonged to him. I placed the photos in a folder labeled wall, because this was the line where the wall would stand. At 5:12 p.m., Jordan texted a photo of a clipboard in a waiting room, the clinic's logo discreet in the corner. Jordan, pre-op consult finished. Friday is on. Melanie is driving me and staying during recovery. Be supportive. Be supportive, I read aloud, as if flavoring it for my own comprehension. The chalk line in my head took on depth, became a stud wall. Avery, I won't be paying for the procedure. If you need help arranging a rideshare back, I'll book one. Jordan, she's got me. We're a team. Then be a team, I whispered to the empty kitchen. That night he was buoyant, humming while he packed an overnight bag, folding clothes like he was auditioning for a catalog. He told me the post-op instructions 3 times. Careful, soft, kind, in a way that made me want to inventory every cupboard for missing items. Don't be sarcastic, he said when I thanked him for the briefing. It's a beautiful thing, creating life. You'll love the baby once they're here. You'll see. No, I said, and even to my own ears, it sounded like a prayer. No, I won't. He paused in the doorway, a silhouette cut out of a future I no longer shared. You'll regret this, he said. You'll die alone. Better alone, I said, than raising Melanie's child while you play weekend dad. He flinched. You're cruel. Clear, I corrected again. When the door shut behind him, the silence resettled. I poured the cold coffee down the sink and watched it spin into the drain, dark, decisive. On the counter, the face-down clinic packet waited like a test I didn't have to take. I turned it over, wrote the surgery time on a sticky note, and pressed it to my calendar so I would remember exactly when to begin. Blue dust, straight edge, wall. Next Friday at 9 a.m., I would snap the line in the real world, and everything after would stand behind it. The clinic texted him at 8:11 a.m. Checked in. They'll take me back in 15. He included a selfie from the waiting room, all bravery and chapstick. I stared at the screen while the kettle steamed. The sticky note on my calendar looked like a tiny yellow flag planted on a buried mine. When the whistle started, I turned off the flame, poured the water, and opened the folder labeled Wall. Howard had been precise. Do the clean work before the mess begins. I logged in and rerouted my direct deposit to an individual account I'd opened years ago and never used, a quiet room at the end of a corridor. Then I requested a temporary legal hold on our shared utilities checking, citing disputed access, a phrase that tastes like aspirin going down. I closed the 2 joint credit cards where I was primary, took screenshots of the confirmations, and saved them next to the deed photos, the heirloom receipt scans, the policy beneficiary change I'd completed the day before. By 8:42, another text. They're taking me back. Melanie says hi. She's nervous but excited. This is big for us. Be kind. I put the phone face down, took my time with the tea. The sun reached across the counter. Thin, almost apologetic. I washed the cup, dried it, drew the line in my head again. Blue dust, straight future. Then I sent one message. Avery, I won't be available during your procedure. If you need anything post-op that doesn't involve funds, text. The dots didn't appear. At 9:03, the calendar alarm pulsed. I silenced it and pulled on my blazer. Howard's office was a quiet symphony of glass and wool, the kind of place where voices become careful by instinct. He was waiting with a thin folder and a pen. We'll assume, he said, this becomes a legal matter only if he tries to convert your stability into leverage. He already did, I said softly. He called it love. Howard nodded like a doctor cataloging symptoms. Then we treat it as a contract he never offered you the chance to refuse. I've drafted notices for your bank to confirm your status as primary and a letter reserving all rights regarding the residence. This is not a divorce filing. It's a perimeter. A wall, I said. He half smiled. If he escalates, locks, intrusions, false claims, we'll ask for exclusive use of the property. If he files something opportunistic, we answer with facts. He tapped the folder. Texts, title, bank actions. Do not meet him alone if he demands confrontation. If you can avoid raised voices, do. Calm is a witness. At 9:41, as I initialed the last page, the phone vibrated. Jordan. Out. Sore, but good. They said chances are solid. Melanie's picking up my meds. Can we talk about next steps tonight? Money, logistics, crib space? I slid the phone to Howard. He scanned, photographed, put it back. Say little, he advised. Confirm nothing except your previous boundary. I typed, Avery. I'm glad surgery is over. As stated, I'm not funding anything, nor participating in co-parenting a child you plan to have with Melanie. Jordan, you're being punitive. This is supposed to be joyful. Avery, joy you asked me to purchase isn't joy. Rest. We can communicate via text. He sent a thumbs up that felt like a dare. I left Howard's office with the folder under my arm, a passport across a border I hadn't chosen to cross. On the sidewalk, the city moved in its unconcerned way. I bought a croissant I didn't eat and took it home anyway, a small bag of proof that I still participated in ordinary life. At 11:26, an unfamiliar number lit my phone. Ms. Collins, this is Janet Whitfield, counsel for Jordan Hale. The tea went cold between my hands. Good morning. Jordan informs me you have unilaterally frozen his access to funds while he's recovering from a necessary medical procedure. That amounts to financial abuse. Jordan has full access to his own income, I said. I have secured accounts for which I'm primary and requested review of a joint utilities account. That is not abuse, it's asset protection. You are preventing a woman from exercising her reproductive rights by controlling Jordan's finances. I let the silence stretch until she felt it land. I'm preventing no one from anything. Jordan chose a procedure to conceive a child with his ex-girlfriend and asked me to fund it. I declined. I have texts. Would you like copies? There was the soft click of recalculation. We'd like unfettered access restored immediately, or we'll consider injunctive relief. You're free to consider anything, I said in my best glass and wool voice. I'll send you the messages where Jordan outlines his plan to father a child with Melanie and to use my home and finances to support them. Her tone cooled. We'll be in touch. When the line died, I exhaled a laugh I didn't mean. Somewhere, Jordan must have handed her every story that made me a villain and him a visionary. People love the kind of story where a woman is a door, either locked or revolving. At 12:01, he texted again. Jordan, Janet is going to call you. Don't be dramatic. We just need access restored so we can nest. Avery, you and Melanie can nest wherever you fund. Not here. Jordan, this is our house, our life. Avery, the house is titled in my name only. Purchased before I met you. You share expenses. You do not own the deed. The dots arrived, then vanished. A minute later, Jordan, you always have to win, don't you? Avery, I prefer not lose what's mine. By afternoon, Melanie chimed in from a number I didn't recognize. Melanie, hey Avery, it's Mel. You probably remember me from the gallery opening? Just wanted to say I hope we can keep things positive. I know change is hard. I'll contribute in ways that matter. Energy, presence, creativity with the baby. Money isn't everything. I didn't respond, not from cruelty, because words like energy and presence don't pay for formula at 2 a.m. Because I could already hear the script. I would be the stable one, the winter coat hung by the door they both reached for when seasons turned. At 3:02, a photo arrived. Jordan in the passenger seat, pale and pleased, Melanie's hand in the foreground holding a pharmacy bag. Teamwork, the caption read, as if hashtags could convert chaos into meaning. I forwarded the image to my folder. Facts are facts, even when they're dressed as feelings. Evening brought the first real crack. He came home around 6, moving gingerly, smelling like antiseptic and victory. Melanie idled at the curb in her sun-faded coupe, engine chattering. He kissed the air near my cheek, like people do when they pretend affection is a way to harvest goodwill. "Hey," he said, voice tender with self-congratulation. "It went great. They said I should take it easy for a few days." He glanced around the kitchen, already mapping where he imagined a high chair might go. "We should talk about room configurations. The second bedroom." "That is my office," I said. "For now," he corrected gently. I looked at the door, at the street where Melanie's silhouette glowed behind the windshield. "You should rest." He lowered himself onto the bar stool, winced, then managed a smile. "I know today was a lot, but once you hold the baby—" "Jordan," I said, and put both hands on the counter so he would see they were still. "If a baby exists, it will be yours and Melanie's. I won't be holding them as a mother. I won't be paying for them as a provider. I will not be a third parent. If you try to force a different story, by money, by performance, by guilt, I will respond through the law. Calmly, completely." He stared at me like I'd just switched a language he didn't speak. "I told Janet you're reasonable," he said finally, hurt under the sugar, "that you'd come around." "I am reasonable," I said. "I'm just not available for this." His eyes slid to the hallway. "I'll stay here tonight," he announced, claiming space like planting a flag. "Melanie's place is noisy, and I need quiet to recover." "Your recovery," I said, "should happen wherever your future lives." Color rose under his skin. "You're really doing this." "I'm really doing this." He stood, slow and unsteady. "You can't stop love," he said, as if he were quoting scripture. "You can't stop a family. It happens with or without you." "I believe you," I said. "That's why I stepped aside." At 8:21, after he left with an exaggerated sigh and a bag of frozen peas, my phone rang again. Janet. "Ms. Collins, a final note for today. If you continue to restrict funds, we'll characterize it as coercion in any petition we file." "Text me your mailing address," I said softly. "I'll overnight the transcripts where your client describes his plan to conceive with his ex-girlfriend and rely on my income and home. Then we can both use the same words in the same order and see what the judge hears." Silence, then. "Good night." I locked the door, turned off the lights, and stood in the dark long enough to hear my heart slow. The wall in my head was no longer a line. It was studs, sheathing, screws turning home. At 10:03, a final text from Jordan. "You'll change your mind when it's real." Then a photo of the moon over the clinic parking lot, pale, careless. I put the phone face down and went to bed with the window open. Somewhere a siren wandered by, bored. Somewhere a couple fought over dishes and apologies. In my house, there was only the thin sound of the fan and the steadiness of a decision that would not need to be revisited. Tomorrow would be for locks, documents, and the precise arrangement of facts into a shape that could stand. Tonight was for breathing, for sleep, for the quiet that comes when you refuse to fund a story you don't believe in and build a wall around the one you do. Part 3. Lines in court, lies in court. By Tuesday morning, the world had begun to tilt. Not dramatically, just enough that every familiar sound seemed an inch off key. Jordan hadn't come home since surgery. I found out why when I opened my phone. A picture on his social feed, Melanie's arm looped through his, captioned, "Building something new." He'd tagged me. For a heartbeat, I thought it was a mistake. Then I realized it was the announcement. His way of saying that while I was closing accounts, he'd opened a new narrative. A woman scorned, a man liberated. Within hours, mutual friends began texting. "Are you okay? Is this true?" I answered no one. Let the silence do its work. By Thursday, the first letter from Janet arrived. She was demanding shared access to the marital home, a legal euphemism for moving in with Melanie. Howard read it, sighed, and underlined 2 phrases. Marital home, shared access. "She's pretending you're married," he said. "We're not." "I know, but she's building optics. It's an emotional claim. She's aiming for sympathy." "She's doing this for him," I said. "He always finds someone to make his bad decisions sound like self-discovery." Howard adjusted his glasses. Let's preempt the next move. File a motion for exclusive use of the property. That makes the court order clear. Only you live there until everything's sorted. He looked up. Have the locks changed before you're served. That evening, I hired a locksmith. The man whistled while he worked, the tune bright, mechanical. When he handed me the new keys, he said, "Clean click, no drag. It's good hardware." Good hardware. That was how I wanted my life to sound again. At 9:40 p.m., headlights swept across the living room. I peeked through the blinds. Jordan's car, trunk open, boxes stacked high. Melanie stood beside him in a denim jacket and hope. They walked to the front step. The handle didn't turn. Jordan rattled it, frowned, then knocked. "Avery!" His voice was raw sugar. "We just need a night. I'm recovering. Mel's exhausted." "Jordan," I said through the door. "You don't live here." "We're a family," he insisted. "This is a home, not a fortress." "Then you should have thought about that before you built it on someone else's foundation." He hit the door harder. "You're being vindictive." "Legal," I corrected. "There's a difference." He yelled again. I called Howard, speaker on. "She's escalating," Howard said evenly. "Document everything. Don't engage further." I recorded 37 seconds of pounding before Jordan's voice cracked into pleading. "Please, Avery, don't make me sleep in the car." "Melanie has a car," I said. "Sleep there." Her voice floated through the wood, small but sharp. "You don't have to be cruel just because you're alone." "I'm not alone," I replied. "I'm in peace. There's a difference." Their footsteps retreated. Tires spun. Silence pressed itself against the walls like approval. The next morning, a police officer knocked. "Ms. Collins, Mr. Hale reported you locked him out of his residence." I handed him the deed and my ID. "My residence," I said. He studied the paper, then the calmness on my face. "Divorce pending?" "Not married, but a lawyer's involved." He nodded, bored professionalism. "Then it's civil. Handle it in court." I almost smiled. Exactly what I planned to do. The hearing. Wednesday, 2 weeks later, smelled like carpet cleaner and impatience. The courthouse waiting area hummed with old air conditioning and quiet revenge. Jordan sat across from me, bandaged pride disguised as charm. Melanie clung to his arm, her makeup too hopeful for the fluorescent light. Janet hovered behind them with a binder the color of caution tape. Howard leaned over. "Don't speak unless addressed. Facts only. They'll push emotion. Don't bite." The bailiff called our names. Inside, the mediator looked at Jordan first. "Mr. Hale, you're seeking shared use of the property?" "Yes," he said, voice all honey. "It's our home. I've been unfairly evicted." "By Miss Collins?" He nodded gravely. "She's punishing me for wanting to be a father." Janet rose, smooth as smoke. "Your Honor, Ms. Collins has engaged in financial manipulation and reproductive coercion, preventing my client from fulfilling his family goals by controlling assets and access." Howard didn't even blink. "My client declined to fund Mr. Hale's elective surgery to conceive with his ex-girlfriend, then protected her sole-owned home from misuse. I have documents." He handed over the folder. Every page was numbered, highlighted, dated. The texts spoke for themselves. Jordan's plan, his request for money, my refusals phrased in calm, almost maternal patience. The mediator skimmed, eyebrows rising. "Mr. Hale, is this accurate? You intend to raise a child with Ms. Ramsey," she nodded at Melanie, "while continuing to live in Ms. Collins's home and rely on her income." Jordan hesitated. Love doesn't always follow traditional lines. Howard leaned forwards. "But mortgage payments do." A few people in the back laughed before catching themselves. Melanie squeezed Jordan's hand. "We just wanted support for the transition," she whispered. "Financial support?" the mediator clarified. Melanie nodded, cheeks pink. "He's still healing." "So is my client," Howard said dryly. The mediator set the folder down. "I'm granting Ms. Collins exclusive use of the property until further order. Mr. Hale and Ms. Ramsey must vacate within 48 hours. Jordan shot up. "You can't do that. I have nowhere to go." The mediator didn't look up. "That's unfortunate. Choices have consequences." Melanie began to cry softly. Janet started to protest, but stopped when the mediator added, "And please refrain from using this court for personal theatrics." Howard gathered our things. "Told you. Facts win." As we left, Jordan called after me. "You think this is over? You'll regret making me the enemy." I turned, met his eyes, and said quietly, "You were never my enemy, Jordan. You just mistook my kindness for consent." That night, I sat at the kitchen table, my kitchen, my table, and listened to the steady tick of the clock. I'd won a motion, not a war, but the air felt different, lighter. honest. At 10:14, a text buzzed. Jordan, you humiliated me. You'll pay for that. Avery, I already have. The balance is settled. I blocked him. Outside, the wind moved through the maple trees, scraping old leaves along the porch like brooms sweeping a stage clean after a play has ended. Tomorrow would be moving day, and I'd watch it all. The boxes, the tears, the performance, from my own front step, with both hands steady and my walls intact. Heart 4. The moving day choir. Friday dawned the way all endings do, too bright for what it had to shine on. I hired 2 off-duty officers, just as Howard suggested. Neutral witnesses, he'd said, and deterrence to melodrama. I also made coffee strong enough to count as armor. At 7:56 a.m., a moving truck rolled up, dented and overconfident. Jordan climbed out first, chin lifted, defiance standing in for dignity. Melanie followed in oversized sunglasses and an aura of misplaced tragedy. Behind them came a small parade, his mother, Catherine, in a church hat that looked ready to testify, and his cousin, recording on her phone like she'd been cast in a documentary about injustice. Jordan stopped at the gate and called, "We're here to collect my things." I nodded toward the officers. "You'll take what's legally yours, nothing more." Catherine pressed a hand to her chest. "You're putting my son out on the street. After everything he's done for you." I blinked slowly. "He's done surgery for someone else. Let's stay factual." Jordan's cousin muttered something about financial abuse. Melanie sniffled. The camera panned. He marched toward the door, waving a folder. "I'm allowed inside." "Not according to this court order," Officer Reyes said, calm but edged. "You have 48 hours to vacate, not to reclaim." Jordan's voice cracked. "I just need my clothes." "Those are packed," I said. "By me. In boxes labeled with your name, waiting on the porch. You're welcome." He stared at the boxes like they'd betrayed him. "You had no right." "I had efficiency," I said. "It's underrated." Melanie stepped forward, trying for soft diplomacy. "Avery, I know this is hard, but can we please have the TV? Jordan uses it for relaxation therapy." "Jordan uses it for video games," I said. "The TV is mine. Receipts in my file." "Don't be petty," Jordan said, voice sharp now. "It's just a TV." "Then you won't miss it." Officer Nguyen shifted, hand near his belt. "Let's keep it civil." Catherine began to film, narrating like a news anchor. "This is what control looks like. A woman with no compassion, destroying lives." "Lives," I said, "or delusions." She ignored me, pointing at the lens. "Viewers, this is why marriage vows matter." "We weren't married," I said. That broke her rhythm. She turned to Jordan. "You told me—" "Mom," he hissed. "Not now." The camera lowered. Melanie pretended to study the sky. They began loading boxes. Jordan dropped one, labeled miscellaneous. It split, spilling loose sketch pads, shirts, and a framed photo of us from years ago. A lake behind us, his arms around me. He bent to pick it up. The glass had cracked straight through our faces. "Guess that's symbolism," he said, forcing a laugh. "Guess so," I said quietly. Catherine tried again, gentler. "You could let them stay until they find somewhere. It's Christian." "So is consequence," I replied. She clucked her tongue, started humming a hymn under her breath, the day's first note in what became a full choir of complaint. By noon, the truck was half full, the drama at capacity. Melanie sobbed over a chair she claimed to love. "It's our memory chair," she said. "It's my grandmother's dining chair," I corrected. "You sat in it once, while eating my food." Jordan threw his hands up. "You're impossible!" "And you're late," I said. 15 minutes until the court's deadline. That was when Catherine pulled out her phone again. "I'm recording for the lawyer." Howard, standing beside me, murmured, "Excellent. Let her record the lawful removal of items." I almost smiled. When they reached the end of the driveway, Jordan turned for his final line. "You'll regret this when you're alone with your money." "Maybe," I said, "but I'll be alone on purpose." Melanie wiped her eyes. "You'll never find love this way." "I'm not looking," I said. "I'm resting." Howard nodded approval like a director calling cut. They drove off in a cloud of dust and indignation. The air went still. The silence had weight, the kind that fills a house only after it's been emptied of illusion. That evening, the social media campaign began. Melanie posted a filtered selfie with the caption, "Some people think money makes them better, but love always wins. Hashtag my body, my choice. Had healing." Jordan reposted it with a broken heart emoji. Their friends chimed in with vague sympathy, unaware of context. My phone buzzed nonstop. Screenshots from acquaintances, messages from mutuals, even one from my neighbor. Should I comment or just bring popcorn? I ignored it all until Howard texted, "Leave the posts. They dig their own hole." By Sunday morning, they had. Someone from Jordan's old job commented, "Wait, isn't this the same Melanie you left your last girlfriend for in 2009? The thread devolved fast. Melanie deleted the post within the hour. Jordan followed with a story about choosing peace. Peace, apparently, meant moving in with his mother. That afternoon, a message arrived from him, one of those long ones that scroll before you finish the sigh. Jordan, I didn't mean for it to go this way. You pushed me. You made me feel small. Melanie just believed in me. I thought you would too. Avery, I did. That's why you mistook stability for weakness. Jordan, she's pregnant. I stared at the screen. 3 dots blinked, stopped, blinked again. Avery, congratulations. Jordan, we're not asking for money, just goodwill. Avery, you have my goodwill. Spend it wisely. He didn't reply. Howard called an hour later, already aware. If she's pregnant, fine. It doesn't change your position. You're not liable. I know, I said, but it changes how the silence feels. He was quiet for a beat. Silence passes. Paperwork lasts. Keep your peace. That night, the house breathed differently. Empty rooms, yes, but also air without accusation. I lit 1 candle, poured wine, and stood by the window, watching the reflection of my own steadiness flicker in the glass. Outside, the street was ordinary again. No cameras, no spectators, just the hum of streetlights and the soft shuffle of a cat passing under the fence. Inside, I whispered to no one in particular, "Let them sing, I'm done performing." And the house, my house, stayed still, strong and silent in agreement. Part 5. Aftershocks, quiet water. 3 days after the moving truck pulled away, I received the first of what Howard called echo texts, the kind people send when they still believe the story isn't over. Jordan, I miss what we had. Avery, you miss stability. That's not the same thing. He didn't respond, but I knew the pattern. Silence, guilt, and then the next appeal. It arrived a week later. Jordan, Melanie's not feeling well. The doctor says stress isn't good for the baby. We need help getting settled. I read it twice before answering. Avery, that sounds difficult. I hope she has support. Jordan, she does. You. Avery, I'm not her safety net, Jordan. You made that clear when you chose her. He tried to call. I let it ring out. 2 weeks later, Catherine called. Her voice was sugar-glazed over stone. Avery, honey, I know things got messy, but you're such a kind woman. Maybe you could, just until they're stable, help with rent? I already paid, I said. For what? For 15 years of Jordan's promises. She exhaled through her teeth. God will judge your heart. I'm counting on that, I said, and hung up. A month passed. The silence began to feel earned. Howard texted, "Final hearing next week. You'll walk out clean." Clean. The word felt strange after so much debris. At the hearing, Janet's energy had changed. The once confident attorney now shuffled papers like she wished they were feathers. "Ms. Collins," she began, "my client wishes to settle. He'll waive any claim to shared assets in exchange for a one-time payment of $50,000. Howard leaned back. He wants her to fund his midlife crisis? Call it closure, Janet said. Howard looked at me. Do you want quick or fair? Fair, I said. Always fair. We countered with standard division. Joint savings split evenly. No alimony. He keeps his debt. I keep my home. No ties, no promises, no lingering hooks. By Friday, the judge signed. It was done. Howard shook my hand. You're free. Freedom doesn't sound like trumpets. It sounds like nothing at all. The quiet click of a pen capping closed, the soft slide of papers into a folder. 2 weeks later, the rumor reached me through a friend. Melanie's pregnant again. Then another message a day later. False alarm. She just said it to keep him from leaving. And then the inevitable. He left anyway. Apparently, he took $5,000 she'd withdrawn for baby furniture and vanished. Left a note that said, "Need to find myself." When I read that, I laughed for the first time in months. Out loud. Real laughter, not the brittle kind that hides relief. That night, my phone buzzed at 2:14 a.m. Jordan. I almost didn't answer. Then curiosity won. His voice was small, broken. She's gone. Took the car. I don't have anywhere. You had a home, I said softly. You traded it for a dream that couldn't pay rent. I made a mistake. You made a series of them. This is just the bill. Can I come home? No, Jordan, I said. You burned that bridge, then asked for directions back. He started to cry. I thought love would fix everything. It usually breaks everything first, I said, but sometimes what it breaks needed to end. He hung up. I didn't feel victorious, just done. The final paperwork arrived by mail a week later. Embossed seal. My name alone on the deed again. I ran my fingers over the raised stamp, felt the weight of ink and independence. I redecorated, repainted, reclaimed space. The guest room, once the battlefield, became a small studio. I filled it with color, canvas, and silence. My silence. The kind that doesn't hide things anymore. Neighbors waved again. Even the mailman said, "Looks peaceful here." "It is," I said. Finally. Then, in December, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a Christmas card. Glittery, store-bought. A photo of Jordan sitting beside a sad little artificial tree in what looked like a studio apartment. His handwriting underneath. Thinking of better times. Maybe next year. New chances. I turned the card over. Blank. No phone number. Just that hollow sentiment that people use when regret finally outweighs pride. I didn't respond. Instead, I texted Howard. He sent a card. He replied, "Frame it as a reminder, or burn it. Either way, it's yours now." I chose to keep it, not out of nostalgia, but proof. Proof of how far I'd come, and how small the storm looked once you'd walked through it. Sometimes late at night, I still think about the moment he first said it. Melanie wants kids now. The fork clattering, the blue dust line across my mind. It's strange, the things that become freedom in disguise. He wanted to follow his heart. And he did. It led him through debt, lies, and a one-bedroom apartment. Mine led me somewhere quieter, stronger. Peace doesn't knock. It just moves in once you've cleared the space. So I leave the window cracked at night and let the city hum in. The house breathes. The walls are solid. The line I drew that day still stands. Straight, clean, true. And when the moonlight hits it just right, I swear I can still see the faint shimmer of blue dust.